Good morning. We're back again. This is ballasting part 2. So I've done the ballasting, I've been over with the glue, I've been over with the hoover, and that lifts it. Now the most common place for it to lift is between the dual track, whether it hasn't got wet enough or it hasn't got enough glue, but you get little bits lift, and that's when I come in afterwards with the PVA glue, a small brush. I put dabs on and then sprinkle over the top, leave it a day, come back and hoover up the excess. But now I've got to get rid of, talking of excess, that's exactly what I've now got to get rid of. So what I use for that is a little Graham Farris truck with metal wheels, a small screwdriver, especially useful around the points, and because I've been splashing the track with PVA and what have you, then it's out with the track rubber. And so we're going to clean the single track all the way round, and then we're going to electrically test. This is why I do it in this order. After each stage of this build, it's electrical testing. That's why I haven't got onto the scenery yet. I'm putting any greenery on, because I've got to make sure this track works before I go on to the next stage. So using the truck with the metal wheels just helps me feel out any lumps of ballast which don't belong there. And I'll do this around the entire layout. So I can apply as much pressure as I like. I just see how it all runs, really. Change the points, they're still working. And there's a bit. Now what I can do is tilt the wagon and use one side of the wheels or the other side, and I can figure out where the excess is, and then it's just a case of scraping it out and hoovering it up. Got the super duper reading glasses on to do that bit. So I've got all of the single track to do all the way round to there. Goodness knows how many feet that is. And then it's the track rubber, just to make sure that it isn't sort of got a fine surface of PVA on it. The other thing that this does, especially with it being worn down with use, is the center bit will also remove the excess ballast on top of the sleepers, because you always get some, no matter how careful you are in spreading it out, you always get a bit on top of the sleepers. So that does the job of that. Now with the electrical testing, I'm using the blades of the points as my point of contact, so that my siding is dead until I change the points and make the siding live. So just in case there's any glue on the point blades, then that's why I do my electrical testing. Now if I do have glue on the point blades, and it is basically, when you put it across, it's insulated, that's a little bit harder to clean. I got some fresh ballast on the dual track, which is drying, so I won't be onto that till tomorrow perhaps, and then perhaps the day after we'll run some locos and see how it goes. But for the moment I've got a few hours work. See you in a bit. So I've cleaned all 3 tracks now. So now it's a question of, does it still work? Because obviously when you're splashing the glue around, you get some of it on to the actual rails. So I'm using a Minitrix diesel. 1, I know it's very reliable. And 2, it has bigger flanges than Graham Farish and some of the latest models. They've got quite big flanges. And now it's just a simple case of listening for the clicking, if there's any excess ballast, and watching for hesitation. And there's our first hesitation at the crossing. So what I'll do now is I'll get in there with the rubber and clean all of the rails again and make sure there isn't any ballast in any of the little nooks and crannies of the crossing, and we can test it all. So as we go round, whenever I see any hesitation, I make a mental note, and I know that that is an area which I've got to clean. If there's any clicking, then it's quite possible that there is some ballast still in the wrong place. Yeah, all of this seems to work mostly. It just needs a little bit more help. And the track rubber will do that for me. Testing the upline. I'm doing this at a relatively slow speed because I want to be able to see the hesitation and I want to be able to hear any ballast that's in the wrong place. Once this job is done, then I can make my abutments for the actual tunnel entrances. I can get it all glued in place and then we can move on to the scenery. The ballast isn't perfect, and I'm not expecting it to be, not with my eyesight. There's a few spots we could do with a bit of an infill. Those 2 points are fine. I can use this siding. Now we'll try the down line. There's a slight hesitation here and there, and I'll simply go back and clean the track again. I know some people dislike using the rubber. They say that it actually scratches the surface and therefore attracts more filth. I suppose there is something in that. But I don't mind using the track rubber. I've got 3 or 4 of them. I keep getting them in the job lots that I buy. Let's try this siding. First point okay, second point, dead. So as I said, I'm using the point blades to transfer power. So it's quite likely that there is a point, there it is, where I'm going to have to try and clean the actual blade. And I just get a little bit of wet and dry. And I don't apply a lot of pressure because the point blades are very delicate. So that's another job to fix before we can move on. Cheerio.